Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. If we just crossed over into Saturday, it has been an incredibly long day here. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but got up this morning, got to work, had three things I wanted to get done. So far, I've gotten one of them done. And, get up, write an article, recap some action from East Mississippi and Itawamba last night, or Thursday night. Itawamba Community College knocks off East Mississippi in a thriller that drops Scuba Tech to 1-3. I don't think anybody saw that coming, right? They compete for a national championship last year. They returned Takis kind of unexpectedly. The former National Junior College Player of the Year is back, and a lot of people felt they were poised to go back and compete and possibly win this year. They're 1-3. Of course, wanted to go see Tony Mitchell, one of our new Mississippi State commitments. We're going to talk a little bit about recruiting later in the show. I don't know how long we go because, of course, we have an 11 a.m. kick. So I got to get this show up and then get to bed, get some rest, and then we'll head to Davis Wade Stadium. We're going to talk a little bit about that game too. But not long ago, got home from Quitman, Mississippi. Went down to see Quitman High School in Kemper County. Kemper County, of course, has two Mississippi State commitments. Mario Nash Jr., an offensive lineman for 2025, currently rated the second highest offensive lineman in the state of Mississippi. And then Demarius Yates, currently rated as the number one running back in Mississippi for 2026. I think he and Jaden Hill both great players, both committed to Mississippi State. But Keelan Deere, man, great player. I tell you, it's pretty cool to think that we've got some players in this neck of the woods, kind of in northeast Mississippi, that in central east Mississippi, that are achieving at a high rate. But I like to get out on the road. You guys know. I mean, I'm not a keyboard cowboy. I like to get out and go see our kids play. In fact, next weekend on my way to Austin, Texas, I'll see one of our Louisiana commitments. Got to plot all that out and figure it out. We'll get out there and check them out. That's what we do. That's part of our job. It's not just to sit back and spread rumors and tell you what's kind of happening behind the scenes, and sometimes that proves to be untrue. But, I like to get out and go see the kids who are going to be future Bulldogs and bring that information to you. You can get that only at genespage.com. Come be a member if you're not already. But, busy day. And, of course, this morning, as I'm plotting my day, the lovely bride reaches out and says, "Hey, can you come help me this afternoon? We have a full schedule." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go help you at the float spa." We had a record day. We floated 21 floaters today at True Rest of Starkville. It's the biggest day we've had. We've had several days in the high teens, been to 20 a couple times, but 21 floaters today. So very, 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 very busy day at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. You need to come be a part of that too, whether you have chronic pain, or perhaps anxiety, or you just need to give your mind and body the rest that it deserves. Come see us. You'll be glad you did. 662-268-7601. Of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. You never know on that TikTok, I may break out in the dance. You never know. Don't doubt me. Don't doubt me. You think you know me, but you don't. I may do it. You never know. But, come be a part of that. There's no point in, in living with that stuff. You don't have to. It's been a great thing for my anxiety. We've had a lot of great reviews, continuing to add members on a daily basis. And so you don't have to have a membership, but if you do, there's a discount that kind of comes along with that if you plan to be a regular floater. And I think once you float, you'll definitely want to come back. The service, unparalleled. That's Truest Float Spa of Starkville. We're going to break down, kind of predict the weekend, and I wanted to get this show up because I know many of you want to listen to the show on your way to Starkville, and so I'm going to do that. Again, I don't know how long we go because I do have to get some rest, but listen, I appreciate so many of you. I tell you, everywhere I go in this state, somebody comes up and says hello. Everywhere I go. And they come up and say, "Hey, I love the show," or "Steve, I subscribe to Gene's page. Steve, we love the books." And I say that with as much humility as I can possibly muster. There was a time in my life When there were a lot of people that didn't know who I was, and I said, I'd love to be able to be that guy on the radio. I'd love to be able to be that guy that people trust and people turn to when they need news about Mississippi State. That was my aspirations. And one of the things that kind of gives me joy is bringing people along with me, hiring people and kind of recruiting them and training them up and seeing them begin to flourish. And as I mentioned, Nathan Purvis, our graphics guy, people told me, oh, you're stupid hiring a graphics guy. Yeah, well, Nathan Purvis, my graphics guy now, really our graphics guy, nobody's doing a better job in the country when it comes to making these young people feel special about taking a game day visit to a college. So it's a game day visit to Mississippi State, it's a graphic. Oh, you committed to Jones Junior College? You committed to East Mississippi? It's a graphic. And now he's doing graphics for Brandon Walker's wrestling show, and he is now the official graphics design guy for the U.S. Army All-American game, or just the Army All-American game, whatever they're calling it these days. But, so it's good to see people that we give an opportunity to have the opportunity to get other opportunities. That's important to me. You need some lifers. You need your David Murrays and your Mike Nemus, but you need some people, too, that have some ambition to maybe be something greater than they are today. And my hope is eventually 247 Sports will just hire Nathan. And listen, I don't care what you think, what you say. There's nobody out there doing a better job than Nathan Purvis. Simple as that. But yeah, it's been a difficult week, in many respects. And we just kind of show up and do what we got to do, And it's so funny too. Everybody has an opinion about things, and let me just say that just about everybody's opinion is wrong. But yeah, we doing the best we can to give you guys the best of everything at genespage.com. So come be a part of that, and let's kind of get in our show too. I'm excited to be back in Davis Wade Stadium because I love being in Davis Wade Stadium. I love being around all of you. But, maybe a tough day for us on Saturday, but I think that we're going to be able to score a little bit. I just maybe call it a hunch. And, again, we'll break that down a little bit later in the show. But let's kind of get to it. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. And, listen, I love it. I absolutely love Bulldog Burger Company. And I loved them long before they were an advertiser. They've been with me for years now. And it's been a great relationship. I can't speak highly enough of those people. And that's not just because, hey, they're an advertiser. They're also the employer of my youngest son. And he absolutely loves it. They hang out outside of work. They go to concerts together. They get together, watch TV together. And I guess sit around and stare at their phones at times. But it's a family up there. And that's one of the things that you want, right? When your young person enters the workforce, you hope they have a great working experience. Well, that's what Ian Robertson is having at Bulldog Burger Company. And you will never be able to convince him there's a better place to work in Starkville. He absolutely loves those people. And that's not just me saying that because they're an advertiser. I hear it all the time. I mean, just like tonight, he said, hey, had a great table today. They were going to float. So they went to Bulldog Burger Company. Ian waited on them, and then they came and floated with Dana there at True Rest. And he couldn't wait. He goes, hey, they were a great couple. How did their float go? It's pretty cool, right? But listen, you need to find what you need at Bulldog Burger Company, whether it be the spring rolls, and many of you need them more regularly than you're getting them. I'm being your friend and being honest with you here. You need to be on the spring rolls because they will make you and everybody around you better looking. Get that great restaurant quality hamburger. I've kind of been on a smokehouse kick as of late. That's kind of been my jam, the smokehouse. And that's the Brian Haydad burger of choice, too, for those of you that are curious about that. It's all Brian today. So find your own favorites, and you can choose one of 3 great locations. University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Get the chocolate shake to go. You'll be glad you did. I'm kind of partial to the Nutella shake. It kind of works for me, right? It does. And Bulldog Burger Company will work for you too. Whether it be a night out with friends, a night out with family, maybe work colleagues, you can have an adult beverage, or you can just have a night out with family and just, everybody just kind of have some time together. Put your feet under their table and let them take care of the cooking, the service, and everything. Enjoy a night out. a Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. Guys, I was looking at the SEC schedule. Man, there is the potential for some blowouts this week. You know what I mean? There is the potential for some crazy things to happen in the Southeastern Conference. I don't know if you've kept up. Then there could be a couple of really good games, but there are also some games, too, you look at and you're like, man, this could be rough. This could be rough. Have you guys kept up with this, reporting, student-athlete reporting thing for football? You kept up with that at all? Now that we're in the SEC play, that's going to be interesting, because of the fact that there's so many times that you, how many times in the past, it's like, well, you don't know, you don't find out the game time. And, a lot of times the gamblers find out before we do. And so the SEC kind of taken all of that out of it, all the guesswork out of it, all the insider trading. So let's look at Mississippi State and Florida. Florida had 4 players last week they were game time decision. 2 of them played and started. 2 others didn't play. But they have wide receiver Jaquavion Frazier's out. Defensive back Jakeem Jackson is out. Eugene Wilson III, wide receiver, out. Aaron Gates, defensive back, out. Asa Turner. The last defensive back that I knew named Asa was Asa Bennett of Mississippi State. Khalil Jackson, wide receiver, is out. Roderick Kearney, offensive lineman, is out. Michael Bourre, defensive lineman, is out. Jamari Lyons, defensive lineman, is out. Joey Slackman, defensive lineman, is out. Mississippi State, Diego Brumfield and Travion Wright, both are out. They've been out. They haven't played much at all this year. Diego hasn't played at all. Travion hasn't played much, but Kedrick Bingley Jones is out. That's a significant deal for Mississippi State. Xavier Gayton, running back, is out. Chris Keys Jr., a safety, is out. Calvin Dinkins out again. It's so crazy. You go back and think about Dink. I mean, he gets banged up. He walks off, help from the field, walks the locker room with a noticeable limp. And he's still not back. I mean, it's like 2 years in a row we lose him in the season opener, 1 for the year. And now, I don't get it. I hate it for him. And then kicker Marlon Hawk is also out. And Tyler Woodard out for the first half due to that targeting call against Toledo last week. But it's nice to be able to have this because here we are, the day before a game or morning before a game, we kind of have an idea of what to expect. So instead of us having to go out there and kind of work through the binoculars and kind of see who's available and who's not and kind of mark all that off, we know. All right, let's take a quick look at the SEC schedule this week and kind of see, okay, who's going to win, Steve? If you've kept up with our genespage.com expert picks, I am currently second of our group. Nathan Purvis, the graphics guy, you thought he just did graphics, is number 1 by a game. He's a game ahead of me, and we do have some picks that are contrary to one another this week. And so got a chance to take the lead. Neil Stopchinski has kind of come up from the rear. Big week for Neil last week. Like he picked New Mexico to cover against Auburn and won. How cool is that? Got to watch Neil and keep my eye on him. All right, let's see if we can't navigate through the labyrinth that is the SEC website here and find a schedule for today. I'm going to be honest with you, this stuff drives me crazy. It's like, why? It was so easy before. Why do we have to make it so? We have to go fix it. That happens in my life too. It's like things are going exactly the way that I want to, and I have to have some little helper come along and change something. All right, we'll do Florida, Mississippi State later. But Ohio is 2-0, and they travel to Kentucky. We've talked recently about how difficult it is to play in Lexington. South Carolina had no trouble, but Georgia did. Kentucky's 1-2, 0-2 in the league, obviously, and then Ohio is 2-1. I like Kentucky to win this game. I picked Kentucky to win and cover, but I won't be surprised if Ohio covers. I think Kentucky wins. I'm not really worried about that. But I don't think this Kentucky team is great. Again, I kind of rue the fact that we don't have them on our schedule this year. But it is what it is. So we'll take Kentucky over the Bobcats. Arkansas and Auburn, this has the potential to be a really good game. I took Auburn to win and cover. I like the new quarterback. Will he be able to pick apart the defense? I mean, he's got the arm talent. But, Arkansas's defensive front's pretty good. And I think maybe Peyton Thorne might have played his last game. Jarcus Hunter's having a good year for Auburn. He's already run for 273 yards. That kind of pales in comparison to what Jaquindon Jackson has done. Jaquindon Jackson's got 397 yards rushing for Arkansas. And I think they'll come out, of course, with Taylon Green. Taylon Green has been elite in some respects. Had a good game against Oklahoma State, too. He had some things happen late for them that cost him that ball game. But Bobby Petrino has him scoring points. I will be surprised if Arkansas wins this game. I won't be surprised if they keep it close. I did pick Auburn to win and cover, but this is one of those games. This is a 2:30 game, so when we get done with our game, we can kind of flip that on. It's on ESPN. Could be interesting. Might even be the game of the week. All right, UCLA, around that same time slot, is going to be at LSU. And, I don't know what to expect here from UCLA. I do expect LSU to win. I remember when West Coast football used to be a thing. Do you remember that? Do you? It's been a while. USC's had a couple good years now and then, but it is not. West Coast football has not been great. Washington, of course, that's kind of Pacific Northwest. But California football as a whole used to be like everybody was, the Rose Bowl is this. There's no prestige in that anymore. The West Coast teams have just not carried their weight. And UCLA, among the most disappointing teams in recent years. I think everybody would agree with that. I mean, have you thought about, what it looks like to be a UCLA Bruin? I mean, is it anything like it used to be? I mean, I can't imagine. Those are the things that I think about. I remember, of my youth, I remember, hey, this is a big deal. You'd see UCLA and USC get together and say, man, this is the game of the year. Not so much anymore. And it's so crazy to think, those games, and maybe they weren't as great as we thought they were. Because maybe we know a little bit more about football. But, the Chip Kelly experiment, and I guess what we can call it, at UCLA has not been great. The end of the Jim Mora era was brutal, too. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. He had a couple 10-win seasons in 13 and 14 and finished in the top 20 and think, hey, okay, great. It's been 10 years since a program with UCLA's tradition has won 10 games. Chip Kelly's gone 3-9, 4-8, 3-4 in 2020, 8-4 in 2021, 9-4, including a loss in the Sun Bowl in 2022, and then 8-5 last year. So they're a mediocre program. They win the bowl game last year, and you're like, hey, okay, 7-5 regular season. Is that what's acceptable at UCLA these days? I don't know. But I know this. I know that this UCLA team has got their hands full with LSU. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. We'll take LSU to win and cover at home. And they're angry about having to play a day game, right? Ethan Garbers for UCLA is thrown for 409 yards. Garrett Nussmeier is thrown for nearly 900. We'll see how it goes. Be interested to see if Rico Flores Jr. can get open against LSU. I don't know. Vanderbilt is at Missouri. Now, Vanderbilt's a team that's difficult to figure out. Big win early against Virginia Tech. They win game 2, go on the road against Georgia State, and they lose. And, of course, Georgia State, programs like that live for the opportunity to play a team with an SEC logo, especially getting a chance to host them. So they win last week. And Missouri's 3-0, and nobody's even really talking about them being a playoff contender, but here they are. If the playoffs started today, Missouri's in. Of course, playoffs don't start today. Missouri is an old team, a veteran team. Brady Cook, the best quarterback in the SEC that nobody talks about, 720 yards. And Nate Noel, they're getting some production from him on the ground, 242 yards. Theo Weiss, 232 yards receiving. It's ridiculous, man. And I think Missouri paced Vanderbilt. I do. I think Vanderbilt makes it a game for a half, but I think Missouri, that's just too much athleticism. They've done such a good job with NIL up there. You got to compliment them on what they've done. I think Tigers roll in this ball game. Speaking of rolling, the Akron Zips roll into Columbia, South Carolina, Williams-Brice. It's a night game. It'll be under the LED lights that some of you love so much. South Carolina's 2-1. Of course, they lose an absolute great game with OSU last weekend. Kind of got sloppy at parts too, but South Carolina should have won that ball game. South Carolina should be 3-0, but they're not. It's not what you should be, it's what you are. Akron is 1-2. The Fighting Joe Moorheads will go into South Carolina, and they just do not have the athletes to match up. Now, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with the quarterback situation this week. FCS opponent, or maybe that's, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what to make of the Zips. I guess they are a D1 program. They're in the MAC, but the talent level is just not the same. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how this thing comes together. South Carolina had to play a couple quarterbacks. Raheem Sanders, Rocket, formerly of Arkansas, has got 285 yards rushing this year so far in 3 games. It's very unfortunate what happened to him last year. Gets banged up and misses most of the year. I think he's an NFL prospect. Yeah, we like the Gamecocks to win and cover easily. All right, Bowling Green's at A&M, and nobody even talks about this game, and why would they? Bowling Green, decent MAC team. And the MAC is kind of, as we know from experience, as we lose our first game ever against a MAC team last week, you can't just snooze on these guys. I think A&M, though, with Marcel Reed kind of going here, he was the quarterback that killed us last year. People didn't know it. It was like, hey, what are we going to do, They put Marcel Reed in the game. He crushed us. Zach Arnett probably still sees Marcel Reed in his sleep. Connor Basilik was the quarterback at Bowling Green when they played Mississippi State. They're an older team. We'll see how things go out there. I think it could be a game for a little bit, but Texas A&M, just too much athleticism. All right, the game that everybody's talking about, Tennessee and Oklahoma. Of course, it's the return of Josh Heupel to Norman as the number 6 team in the country. Oklahoma's ranked 15th. Guys, I don't think Oklahoma's got a ton of wins left on the schedule. Probably a good chance they go around 500 the rest of the way and probably end up around 7-5. I think that's probably the case, and I think they take their first loss this week. Oklahoma's done some good things. Jackson Arnold, of course, has been great for them. But this Tennessee offense is legit. We thought they would be, and in the early going through 3 games, they have been. Absolutely. We'll take Tennessee to win and cover. Georgia Southern is at Ole Miss. Our friend Jared Banco, of course, the AD at Georgia Southern, traded some text messages earlier this week. Jared had a donor bring him a book. I think it's like all the SEC stats from 1933 to 1949. It's pretty cool. I'd like to have that, to be honest with you. I would like to have that. Because like Mississippi State's record books for baseball begin in 1949. We don't have the data from before that. I'd like to have that. And if that book exists, we'd love to have that. I'd love to be able to get that and gift it back to the university so we can update those records from 33 to 49. Matter of fact, maybe I'll reach out to Jared and say, hey, do you mind sending a brother a PDF of that? Wouldn't that be nice? Georgia Southern's going to get waxed by Ole Miss this weekend. I think we all see it for what it is. Coach Helton and those guys at Georgia Southern have done some pretty good things considering their league and everything, but they're out of their depth this week. It's interesting, too. I stopped at the Sprint Mart on the way into town today, and after the ball game, there's a line, so I got to slip by. I got to go to the restroom, and he's just a real thin kid, kind of got the curly, bushy hair, and so I go to leave, and he's like, hey, Steve, hotty toddy. So I walk over there, and I'm like, what's interesting to me, man, is you guys are having a great year, and you're still thinking about me. He goes, well, I just want to tell you hotty toddy. So I walk up, and I'm nice to the kid. They'd come to town. He and his girlfriend had come to town. I said he was from Colorado, had a bright red Jeep, of course. Of course he did. And anyway, they came in town for a concert, had a good time. It was a casual conversation. It was nice. I'm sure it's not what he anticipated. I try to be a nice guy to everybody. I really do. But I also notice too that people do that from the safety of their vehicle. That's just me. But anyway, I don't want there to be any drama in life. Life is dramatic enough without that kind of stuff. And then shortly thereafter, I had a couple Bulldog fans come up and visit for a while. One of those guys, hey, I know your podcast. I've heard of you. And, so we ended up visiting for a little while. They had come back from the concert, too. I guess Flatland Calvary was at Rick's. Understanding, too, we're about to have another major concert announcement for Starkville. There we go. All right, Louisiana Monroe is at Texas. UL Monroe is 2-0. And did you see the quote out there? Like one of the coaches from Louisiana Monroe talking about they have some guys on their team that have already beaten Arch Manning. Guys, you got no chance. Don't go poke the Badger, man. Don't do it. And Texas #1 right now. They elevated #1 in the country. And I think Texas wins ridiculously in this ball game. I don't think there's any question. General Booty, remember him? The Booty brothers. Josh, Abram Booty, played at OSU. Their dad also spent some time at Mississippi State. But it's going to be a tough sled for Louisiana Monroe. The Warhawks, formerly known as Northeast Louisiana. So here are your winners. I guess let's go ahead and talk about Mississippi State now. Here's my worry. I don't think we can stop them. I think we'll get some things going offensively this week. And I know that they have had difficulty kind of sparking things offensively early on. I think we're probably going to help a little bit in that, and I hate that. I hate to sound like I'm being negative. I think I would probably start DJ Lagway. He is a guy that can throw up, but he also gives you a threat in the running game. And Montrell Johnson's got to get going. Through 3 games, Montrell Johnson, Florida's leading rusher, has 166 yards. And then we don't have Kedrick Bingley-Jones either. And Calvin Dinkins. So we're probably a little soft on the interior. I would just line up and run at Mississippi State until they prove that I have to throw it. And that's what I worry about. I think the only way we win this thing is if it turns into a shootout. And they got some athletes in that secondary. We do too. I think we can stress them a little bit. We got to be able to protect the passer. We give it 5 sacks last weekend against Toledo. And so I don't know how anybody could have a lot of confidence coming into this game. And hopefully the players and coaches do. But, I'm picking Florida to win. I think Florida probably wins by a couple touchdowns. I just don't think we're going to be able to get enough stops to win a ball game. All right, we're not going to do a top 10 list today, again, because it's late, and I didn't have time to do all the research. And I listened to a lot of POD on the way home, if you guys know that. POD. So that's where we are. But I do want to give Blair his shout-out, as always. Closewithblair.com. We love Blair. Blair is our friend in the mortgage industry. Blair is the guy that gets things done. If you're looking to get a mortgage, you're looking to buy a condo, buy a house, entrust those services to Blair Chandler. 23 years of experience, back-to-back-to-back years, top 1% close ratio in the country. Yeah. And he's one of ours. He's a Bulldog. I like to keep business in the family when we can. Blair has a place here. He's a season ticket holder in multiple sports. He rides the wave just like you and I do. And there have been many times I've had to pull him above sea level, too. It's true. And he'll admit to that. He is a guy sometimes that, struggles when we do. He really does. But that's one of the reasons we love each other, right? We're here for each other. But again, Blair is a guy, too, if you're looking, for your first home, your next home, or maybe your retirement home, Blair is a guy to talk to. Looking for a refi, looking for a purchase, he can be your advocate with underwriting. His phone number is 601-500-2344. Again, that's 601-500-2344. Let's talk a little recruiting here. Since we have been together, I told you guys on Wednesday's show, I was in the middle of waiting to get some news about a commitment. It got pushed back 3 3 times, and it finally happened like around 10:30 at night, after hours commitment. Tony Mitchell, who is, if memory serves me correct, he is now rated a 4-star by every major recruiting service. I believe that's the correct. He hasn't had a reflection of it. We got to get that fixed. But he didn't have a composite ranking. 247 ranks him as a 90, which is a 4-star. Went and watched him play Thursday night. Didn't fill up the box score, but he was around the action all the time. He's a guy, too, who's kind of got to watch his weight a little bit. And he looks to be in really good shape. I talked to someone close to him before and after the game, and they said, yeah, he's really committed himself physical fitness, because he is a guy, because of how he's built, he can put on some pounds if he's not careful. So he has to kind of watch what he does. Very physical player. I enjoy watching him in pass coverage, too. He's a guy that really gets out there and competes. And as I mentioned, if you read the Bones from Bones on the Road on genespage.com, one thing that I spoke about is when they had some communication issues in the secondary, it was kind of Tony kind of getting with everybody. Like, hey, here's what we need to do, you know. And you like that. You like to see that guy kind of take some ownership of it rather than you know, rant and rave and throw his mouthpiece. He's over there talking to some of these younger guys, kind of getting everybody on the same page. And, again, it's a difficult start for East Mississippi, but I think Tony's going to be a good player. And Tony is a guy that was a high school All-American. Nearly every big blue blood in the country recruited him. He goes to Alabama, gets in a little bit of trouble. That's all behind him now. Record sealed. He's all probation. All that stuff's behind him. There was no violence attached to it or anything like that. And elects to go to Scuba to kind of rebuild things. And he's down there, wanted to return to the SEC, wanted to kind of go to a smaller town, right? He didn't need to go to Atlanta. And so he's headed to Mississippi State. And the State's going to have to fight to keep him. I'm just going to be honest with you about it. I do think we're in a good position there, and I think the fact, too, that State and East Mississippi have such a good relationship over the years, that's important. But also, speaking of relationships, when he was at Alabama last year, so was Coleman Hutzler. And so that was a big part of things. Coleman Hutzler from the D.C. that can put him in a position to make plays and showcase his skills and get to the next level. He also has a long-standing relationship with Corey Bell because Corey Bell was at Florida when Florida was recruiting Tony Mitchell. The long-awaited commitment of Tyler Lockhart is finally in. Now, for those of you that are unaware, he committed some time ago and just kind of held the announcement. And I love the fact, too, is like you think about, we needed something to feel good about. Well, here it is, right? And there was some chatter last week that he was going to commit like at his game Friday night. That's why I went to Winona. And not to mention, it's always great to go to Winona. That staff over there is great to me. Great. When I go over there, I'm on the sidelines. It's like, stop at your play, guys are coming up shaking. Hey, Steve, look, so thank you for coming to see our kids. And sometimes, you know, you forget about how important that is, right? I'm just there to kind of get some pictures and get some notes and things like that and ask a few questions. And sometimes you interview the players. But, you know, having the opportunity to be there, you know, you forget. You know, it's like you go out there and you have a chance to see these players. And it's not just your guy, right? So like last week, I went and watched Tyler Lockhart play. And I love his game. I said last year when I went and watched Winona and Grenada, number one, I also saw Xavier Cotton for the first time, who holds an offer from Mississippi State now for the 2026 class. Love that kid. Love his game. But, you know, you're going to get T.J. Lockhart. You're going to get Fred Clark, Fat Clark. Now Fat Forrester. I think that's going to be, I think that's correct. I think he's changed his name to Fat Forrester after his dad. But anyway, Tyler Lockhart was the guy that really stood out to me in that game. Like, this guy is like shot out of a cannon. He's a real soft-spoken kid. Doesn't talk a lot. Doesn't like doing a lot of media stuff. He just wants to go play football. And you go out there and you see him, and it's like, and then he texts me. He's like, hey, do you mind if I have my pictures? Well, of course. Happy to do it. But this kid can really play. And what's interesting, too, Keith Lay is a junior safety out of Kosciuszko. I saw Keith in that game, and I'm thinking, look at this kid. You know, he's a junior, you know, and you see how long and lean he is, and you start thinking about that catch radius, and you're like, it's going to be tough to throw over this guy. He also has some physicality in his game. Gets off the hash really well. Yeah, he's headed to Mississippi State Saturday for a game day visit. Yeah, and I suspect when our coaches see him, they're going to be like, yeah, we need to pull tape on him. Yeah, that guy looks like an SEC football player. But that's why you go to the games. It's not just to see one kid. You're hoping to see others. And like tonight, when I went to Quitman, they had this offensive tackle. I said, that kid looks really good. Got good size, good feet, good motor, got some punch in him. He's a freshman. 6'5", 280, and he's a freshman. And he's not some big puzzle-gutted lineman that can't push back from the table. He's long and lean and athletic. I'm like, again, this is why you go to games. You're trying to identify the next prospect, right? I mean, it's like this is a 2028 kid. It's the first 2028 kid that I've done anything with. It's nuts, man. And I tell you this, too, about the Kemper County group. And I put this in my article tonight. I wrote an article called Bones After Dark. So in case you haven't read it yet, kind of give some observations. Man, those guys from Kemper County will hit you. They will absolutely hit you. And it doesn't matter how big the ball carrier is and how small the defensive back is. They will hit you. They're 4-0 now, and I would not be the least bit surprised to see them playing for a state championship. They are absolutely great. Now, they got a handful of guys that are going to play football at the next level. Mario Nash, obviously, right? Demarius Yates, 2026 commitment. They've got a few other guys out there, too, that are going to be awfully interesting, too. But you start thinking about, every team needs, senior leadership. And you need some skills, some explosiveness, but you start working through that stuff. And you start thinking, okay, you got kids out here. You got some guys that are like 5'5", 5'6", and may weigh 150 pounds, and they're coming up and striking people. And Keelan Deere is great. But, man, when they got him wrapped up, like first contact came, man, they came in swarms. And there's just pop, 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 pop. Now, Keelan Deere obviously kind of had to carry the weight because their starting quarterback got knocked out of the game. Kind of an unfortunate situation. And the staff and equipment was really upset. I don't blame them. It was a very violent hit. I don't think there was anything malicious. It's like right as the kid gets there, and he's kind of bracing for contact, his foot slips off from under him, so all of a sudden the target area is lowered, right? And so he takes a shot to the head. I don't think there was – obviously it's football and you want to hit people and deliver a lick. I don't think there was head hunting there. They didn't even flag it. And the coaches came out and they were upset. They flagged him for unsportsmanlike conduct. And listen – I think in that situation, you got to keep that in your pocket. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, our starting quarterback just went down. It's a violent hit. He's not moving on the field. I'm going to react. And I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do their jobs, officials, so please don't DM me. But I think in that situation, and the truth of the matter is, too, it was 4th down, and they flagged him 15 yards for unsportsmanlike. I would have declined the penalty. That's just me, especially in that situation. But I think by the time they got it, I think everybody kind of lost all of that in the delay. It's like, okay, we got to figure out what we're going to do here, get punt return team ready. But I am impressed with this Kemper County team. And you remember years ago we signed Marcus Green, a tight end. We signed him as a running back, and Dan Mullen made him a tight end. He ran high. So we put some mass on him, made him a tight end. And, wasn't the biggest of guys, but he was tough, physical. I love those guys from small town Mississippi that are blue-collar kids that are well coached. A lot of guys get by on raw athleticism. But these Wildcats of Kemper County, they will hit you. I've said that multiple times, but I'm going to tell you, of all the teams that I have seen this year, as far as team speed getting downhill, I have not seen anybody as impressive as this group. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know that I saw East Mississippi rally to the football the way that Kemper County did tonight, which may explain why they're 1-3 and Kemper County's 4-0. All due respect to the folks at Scuba Tech. But I like seeing good football. And again, a lot of those guys are never going to play beyond senior day. But think about what they're being taught. And as I put in my article, they're not coaching cowardice at Kemper County. Those guys have contact courage. They will strike you. And it makes me feel even better about our commitments, Mario Nash and Yates. If they're coaching these other guys that really don't have much potential to play beyond high school, they're coaching them and instilling that in them. What does that say about the guys that do have the opportunity to play beyond this? So that's an important aspect of it. But, yeah, that's kind of your recruiting update, and people kind of wonder what's next. I mean, Zay Hardy, not going to commit until November. Again, continue to hear State's in a good position with him. But we're going to be working through some older players. We got to get bigger and older. We have to get bigger and older. I think we've done a good job recruiting the high school ranks. I think everybody kind of feels that way. But at least, you know, this past class. And it's so interesting, too. Like, I don't like people that blame their predecessors. I don't like that about certain people. I guess I shouldn't say I don't like people. I don't like when people blame the guys before them. Okay? And in some respect, many people do. I haven't heard that from this staff. It's like, hey, this is the hand we're dealt. It's our job to go find a way to formulate a plan, try to get a win. But when I go back and I look, you know, the retention rate, Mississippi State has the worst high school signee retention rate in the Southeastern Conference in the portal era. And you know the number one driving factor behind that? Coaching changes. Yeah, coaching changes. We've had multiple coaching changes. The most coaching changes in the Southeastern Conference during the portal era. It all goes hand in hand. You know, you remember when Mike Leach passed away, and all of a sudden all those quarterbacks went and got in the portal, right? Sawyer Robertson, Braden Locke, it was like, hey, there's no air raid, cool, I'm gone, right? And then we have no depth. We had to go out and get Mike Wright. It's all part of the deal. But, yeah, I mean, I got a lot of confidence in Jeff Lebby and these guys. And, again, there's a lot of commitments being made kind of behind the scenes to make us a lot more competitive in football NIL. We got to flip this roster. We do. And I think a lot of people thought we'd be able to do it in year one. And we've done the numbers. But I think, you know, again, a lot of these deals are made in season or shortly thereafter. Like a lot of guys go in the portal kind of knowing where they're going to go. And you see it all the time. So-and-so's in the portal the next day, committed, you know. That's how it happens. But I just want to give you guys a little bit of a recruiting update. Add Tony Mitchell, great player, will be on your 2025 defense. Tyler Lockhart, great player, the best defensive player in the state of Mississippi for 2025. And so that's two. And again, I think Tyler probably plays next year. Then we're going to need him to play. And not to mention, I think once he gets in the college weight room, I don't think you're going to be able to keep him off the field. Because the thing that Tyler Lockhart understands, and it's intuitive, you can just see it on film, he understands you go get the football. And that sounds real simplistic, but it's really not. There are a lot of people that they can't identify a ball carrier. They can't diagnose a play. They can't notice by the flow where the ball's going. Tyler Lockhart just has the ability to kind of break things down. Some people are born with that gift. He's one of them. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Book Mart. Longtime sponsor of the show. We love them, and I'll be doing some book signings with them here in the next couple months. And they have all 6 of my books right now, and they'll have number 7 too. So when you're ordering your apparel, you can order some books too. And Villains and Alpha Dogs will soon be out of print, just so you guys know. So if you haven't filled those in your collection, you can through Campus Book Mart. The best apparel, really, and all the knickknacks and everything you need to kind of demonstrate your fandom, where your outfit in your fan cave, or getting a nice print for your office. They've got all those great things there. It's kind of your one-stop shop for Mississippi State merchandise. And again, don't go to Amazon. Don't do it. Don't do it. Support a Starkville business. And if you can't do it when you come to town, maybe game day's a tough day to shop for you. Maybe you just got too much going on. Say, Steve, I don't have time to go. Well, let the wife go. But if you can't get it done, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, you get a phrase that pays. It's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. All right, the long-awaited and much-anticipated Mississippi State fall ball schedule is now out. We get a lot of questions about that. People say, Steve, what are you hearing? The university made that public today. You can read the release over at genespage.com. It's free, but I'll save you a few clicks here and kind of share the highlights with you. But there are going to be some scrimmages you'll be able to attend, right? There's a lot going on, to say the least. But inter-squad scrimmage dates, and we will cover them. So for those of you that can't be here, we'll have full coverage over at genespage.com. Good reason to be a member, too, because a lot of that content is VIP. But we're going to begin fall ball on September 23rd, which is just a couple days from now. Yeah, Monday, right? We'll get out there and get after it. Scrimmaging again the next day, and then again on the 29th. And so that's a Sunday. Now, we'll be on the road college football-wise, but if you're in town and want to see the Diamond Dogs play, next Sunday will be your opportunity to do so. They'll be back at a scrimmage on Monday and Tuesday, and then again Sunday, October the 6th. Again, we're on the road, football. So I'll miss that, but Mike Nemeth will be covering. And then Monday the 7th. And then we get a break. We get fall break. They resume the scrimmage on the 18th, and then Sunday the 20th. So you could make that a really fun weekend for yourself. You can come up and see the Diamond Dogs scrimmage a couple times, Friday evening, and then or maybe Friday afternoon, and then Sunday. They get back at it Monday, October 21st, and then that Friday, again, Friday, Sunday, a split there, the 25th and 27th. Back at it on the 28th, and then November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, the one outside scrimmage is going to be October the 12th. You know, we played a couple scrimmages the last couple of years, and a lot of it's, it's just, with pitching, the way those rules are set up, it's just, we don't want to do a whole lot of that. We'd rather play ourselves, and we can kind of navigate through that pitching. And so the Fall World Series is going to be at the end, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of November. We hope you can come out and take a look at that. We traditionally start fall baseball a little bit earlier in the year, but due to the Hardy concert, the prep for that and the cleanup for that, and they're kind of residing some things in the outfield now, we're getting a little bit later start. But you Diamond or Dugout Club members, you'll be getting some information here very, very soon. And a lot of people are concerned about the fall roster. We typically don't make that available through hellstate.com. We will track everything over at genespage.com, and we'll even kind of keep up with our stats. And we'll, if you want to know what's going on with the Bulldogs and you can't make it, genespage.com is the way to go, because we're going to have all that information for you. We will cover every scrimmage, and that's enough reason in and of itself if you love Diamond Dog baseball. Not to mention the unprecedented coverage we give you throughout the season, but we cover Mississippi State baseball year-round. As you guys know, as soon as we got back to Virginia, we're in portal recruiting, and we've had some baseball commitments for the 2026 class here in the last week to 10 days. And so we pride ourselves on being your eyes and ears when it comes to Bulldog baseball, and really look forward to seeing this team on the field and kind of see what the new toys look like, right? How many times do we go through that, right? It's like Hunter Hines is back, right? Something unexpected. But we didn't have a lot of left-handed power last year outside of Hunter Hines, but we expect to have some this year. I think this team is going to be really good offensively. I spoke to another SEC baseball insider today, and I said, I think outside of Texas A&M, we're going to have one of the better offensive lineups in the conference. And they said, hey, Steve, I agree with that. And that's the thing. So many people think, hey, Steve, look at all we lost. I say, well, look at what all we brought in. But when you look around the league, many of the teams in our league are in the same situation. They're kind of rebuilding. They say, well, Steve, look at the Georgia portal class. Same situation, right? They may have gone out and gotten some guys that are a little bit highly ranked in the portal, but I look at these numbers sometimes of the guys that are ranked high. I look at the production they had last year. And, you kind of take all that stuff with a grain of salt because those rankings are still in their infancy. But all that I understood, there are a lot of teams in our league that lost as much or more than we did. And, again, I go back to the schedule. It is a peach of a schedule. I kidded with Chris Lemonis. I said, whose butt did you have to kiss to get this schedule? And he goes, you know what? He goes, they've kind of shoved it up ours the last couple of years. It's good that we finally got one, And yeah, he's right about that. I mean, it's a difficult schedule to start the conference, but conference play, you get through those first 3 weekends, and let's say you're 4-5, 5-4, you got a chance to go really do some damage. And so I'm excited about the schedule. I'm excited about the team. You know, last year I told you guys, I said, hey, I'm kind of cautiously optimistic. And by the time we got through fall baseball, I was optimistic about the team, that we would kind of have a return to form. And we did to a certain extent. We still left some money on the table, as you guys are well aware. Those 4 losses really hurt us when it came to the hosting discussion. And I was told some people in the room were like, no, we're not even going to discuss Mississippi State. 4 losses, they're absolutely not going to host. And so you could have made a case for us. I mean, we had a better case in East Carolina, but I digress. But again, if you want to get your first look at the 2025 Diamond Dogs, you can do so on Monday. Yeah, so if you live in this area or you're going to be up here for business, come enjoy that with us. I can't wait to get out there. And, of course, they'll release times, as we get a little bit closer, so for your own planning purposes. But there will be some football weekends, of course, where you can just kind of make the whole thing a Bulldog athletic weekend and come be a part of that. And, of course, there's some, guys, we're going to be getting into basketball before you know it. We're less than 7 weeks away from basketball season starting. So this is the fun time of year, right? It gets really, really busy with men's basketball, women's basketball, football. Of course, then we linger into the spring, and you've got baseball, softball, football, spring practice, and then men's and women's basketball. So it can be a tax even with a crew as big as ours. It takes a lot to kind of cover everything, but that's why we have so many people. It's a true story. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. And I traded some text messages with them today, and it sounds like you guys are listening to me. And I thank you for that, but they thank you even more than I do. It's been a great situation. There were a lot of people that did not know the Stark Vegas Clubhouse even existed until they began to advertise on this show. And it has been very busy. Midweek business has picked up. Matter of fact, I was going to consider going and staying there and bringing my family in for Thanksgiving. But you know what? It's booked. Yeah. It's great. And that's the thing we want. When people advertise on the Boneyard, we want them to have some success. I mean, it's not just, hey, advertising for the fun of it. It's got to be mutually beneficial, and it has been. And everybody wins, right? I keep them as an advertiser. They get your business, and you guys get a great place to stay when you're in the Golden Triangle. There is no better place to stay in the Golden Triangle than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Their Facebook page comes up. You can go check out the pictures. You think that is a really cool, neat place. It is the old renovated golf course clubhouse. 5 bedrooms, 2 bath, full-service kitchen, wet bar, that great back porch area. Even got the fire pit outside. It's starting to cool down at night. You get a chance to go out there. And like right now, it's 70 degrees in Starkville. Sit around that fire. I don't know what it's about conversations around a fire. They just seem to be more meaningful. So if you want to have an adult beverage, watch the sunset, and fire up outside, you can do that. Whether you're bringing a work crew to town midweek, rather than go out and get 5 hotel rooms, hey, save some money and make it more convenient on everybody, and stay at a really cool place. When I travel, like if I go Airbnb it, I try to find the neatest place possible, right? This is the neatest place possible in this neck of the woods, and I think you'll enjoy that. Whether it's a couple's weekend, college roommates weekend, family weekend, they're going to be able to accommodate you. Now, when you Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, you're going to have some booking options that come up: Airbnb, VRBO, and then the Evolve website. If you book through the Evolve website, I can save you some money. Promo code BSR10, BSR10 gets you 10% off your stay. And maybe you don't want to save any money. Maybe you're trying to spend it all up before you die so your kids don't get any of it. I look at it a little bit differently. If it's free or discounted, it's probably me. So maybe you got it better than me. I don't know. I like a promo code when I can get one. So we offer you one as a listener to this show. Again, that's promo code BSR10. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. All right, I wanted to close the show with this. And I know, listen, if you get tired of me sharing good tidings in life, this is probably not your segment. But I got a call this morning from a Boneyard listener and a Gene's Page subscriber. And I have had some interactions with this individual before. I'm not going to give you too many details about who he is or where he lives, even though he gave me permission to do so, because I don't want him to be inundated, with messages and things like that. But anyway, this gentleman, he contacted me some time ago, and had gone through a pretty bad divorce. And there really aren't any great divorces. Like, everybody leaves the whole thing kind of wounded. But he'd gone through a divorce, and initially it wasn't a divorce that he wanted. And really kind of felt like after some time passed that, hey, maybe this was for the best. Maybe it was. And so just as he's kind of getting back on his feet, kind of finding a new way to live, he had a situation here recently. He was working and found that, maybe, he didn't feel great. And he was like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just out in the sun a lot. I'm getting dehydrated. And so maybe I need to, maybe get some rest. And then he began to have some vomiting issues. And it lingered. And so he ends up going and getting checked out. And they goes, hey, we think you're kind of on the tail end of a stomach bug. It's been going around. They gave him some fluids, gave him some meds, and said, let's give it a couple days. And a couple days later, he was feeling a little bit better. And then it returned. And he reached out to some people that loved him and said, something is wrong. I can't put my finger on it, but something is not right. I'm not steady on my feet. I can't keep anything down. And guys, he goes and he gets examined, and of course they initially kind of miss it, and they do a CT scan and they find out that he has a brain tumor. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. That is that's a curveball that you don't always expect, right? You think, man, I've gone through this thing. My family's broken up. I got to think about what I'm going to do with the balance of my life. Do I want to go back and date again? Do I want to get remarried again? What do I want to do? I'm just kind of figuring that out. And now all of a sudden they tell me I have a brain tumor. Can you begin to imagine how that feels to hear those words come out of a medical professional's mouth, that you have a brain tumor? Well, thankfully they did surgery, and it appears to have been a successful surgery. And he did not lose, he said all the organ function was great. When I spoke to him on the phone, he sounded normal, very sharp. But he had a message for all of you. And he wanted me to share it with you. And I'm honored to do so. He said, Steve, you got a platform. You got some people to listen to you, people that read you. Would you share my sentiments about my current situation? And you never know what that's going to be. But out of his mouth, he said, Steve, I want people to focus on what matters most. He goes, at times I get down in the mouth about Mississippi State athletics. There's so many things that happen in my life, things that have happened to me, that I have a new lease on life in that respect. He goes, it's not about the things you buy. It's not about the things you own. It's not about the money you make. It's about the kindness that you show. And he called me, and I had to get off the phone real quickly, and I said, I promise I'll call you back. And in the middle of that delay, when I was having to take another call, and it was a business call that I simply had to take. It wasn't like, let me rush this guy off the phone, he's got a brain tumor, right? I got class, right? But he sends me this message. I just wanted to tell you that from your podcast, you've been through a lot. I'm going through a lot right now, but I've been blessed. The most important things in life are kindness, family, and relationships. I know we need jobs for food, clothing, a roof over our heads, and other essential things. But the earthly things will vanish. But kindness and relationships are forever. Steve, I hope you hang in there. Well, it's so interesting. I mentioned it earlier in the show. It's been a challenging week, and as I hit the mic, in some respects. And I don't want to get in a lot of details with that. My life is great. My business is great. Everything is great in that respect. But, there are sometimes things pop up in life you got to deal with. And so I began the week, with some challenging things. And I get this phone call today, just unsolicited, just out of nowhere. And it's like, Steve, let's focus on what matters most. And it's the people around us. One of the things that I have shared many times, for those of you that follow me on Facebook, and if you don't, you can't. I can't accept any more friends, but you're welcome to follow me on Facebook. is that, the people that matter most are those that will gather around your bedside in your final days. It's not your work friends. It's not your Facebook friends. It's not your co-workers. It's not your vendors. Now, those people may be impacted, and they may pray for you and may feel sorry for you, and they may feel the pain in your passing. But the people that are going to miss us the most are the people that depend on us. And not just financially, but depend on us to help them navigate through life. And I was so incredibly blessed to be with my dad when he passed away. Very, very grateful that I could be there and be some level of comfort for him as he left this life and went on to heaven. And I remember, I consider it one of God's greatest gifts to me. And we had lost to Florida. He and I watched the ball game together. We lost to Florida. And he turned to me and he says, "I'm ready to go." And that stays with me. I mean, obviously he'd been sick for a while. He'd battled cancer. He'd been in the hospital, kind of in and out. And I remember going in Baton Rouge, and we knew the news wasn't going to be good. I was home, and I went by. I'd been on the road working with a lending company, and I'd been in like 3 states in about 20 hours. And I go home to pack a bag, and I tell Dana, I said, "I'm going back for the duration." And that was like on a Thursday. And I had to bring Ani and Audrey into our bedroom. Mia was too young to understand. And I had to tell them my grandfather was dying. And I remember when it was over, speaking to my children, my wife said, "You're such a good dad." I don't know how many times she said that. I know she believes it. And I do know that I'm a good dad. Matter of fact, I'm a great dad. But in those moments when I felt like, in many respects, that my world was falling apart, because my dad was kind of my anchor, right? That was, I think everybody feels that way about the same-sex parent, right? And your dad, you think is Superman, right? And I always thought he would beat it. And but I was there with him, and it was apparent that he was about to pass away. And I laid my hand on his arm, and I prayed. And I said, "God, if you have ever loved me, if I've ever been your child, take him and take him now. Let him pass at this moment. I don't want him to suffer anymore." And I told my dad, I said, "It's okay if you go. It's okay. I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to make sure everybody else is okay. I don't want you worried about us. It's okay if you go." And my dad had a brother, Paul, was around his age. Matter of fact, when they were young, they slept 3 to a bed, and it was Paul and Charlie and Freddie, my dad. And my Uncle Paul got paralyzed. A crazy accident. He was working in a gas station. Some guys were toughing around. And he fell and hit his head, and he was paralyzed. And it really was one of those things that it kind of sat with my dad, even as an adult, about how unfair it all was. But my Uncle Paul, I never heard him complain, ever. Never heard him complain about his situation, ever. He loved Mississippi State, loved Mississippi State. And it didn't matter what was going on. If Mississippi State was on TV, the world stopped, And my Uncle Paul died before my dad did. And I told my dad, and I don't know why it kind of flashed in my mind, but I told him, I said, "Daddy, if you want to go be with Uncle Paul, it's okay. If you want to leave us and go be with your family that's already gone before you, you want to go see with your parents, and you want to go see Uncle Paul be whole, it's okay to go." It was difficult. It really was. But I meant it. And so I got to be there when my dad took his final breath. And it's so incredible to think that all of his children were with him and his wife. And if we could all be so richly blessed, to have the people that love us the most around us, when we say our final goodbyes. And the last thing that my dad ever said, and he didn't say anything for like 36 hours. And when all of us were together, he looked around the room and he said, and my dad never showed emotion like this. He looked around the room and he said, I love all y'all. Those are the last words he ever spoke. And I think what a legacy to be able to leave that. That's your dying declaration is one of love. And how many times do we go through life being so incredibly bitter about things, right? So many outside influences. And there's so many things to get us down. There's so many things to distract us from what really matters most. And it's the love of each other. And you love your friends. You do. You love your family. And there's probably some family you love more than others. But let me encourage you. You know, I'm a guy that does a lot of self-examination. I really do. I do a lot of things, and I'll think, do I have fault in this? You know, when things happen, do I have fault in this? Do I owe amends to somebody? Do I owe an apology? There's something that I need to do. And that's growth for me, because there were times when I was younger, I was like, I don't care, you know. They can deal, right? But that's one of the things that I think about so much. And I had somebody recently ask me, you know, what's something that's happened in recent years that maybe outside of the books and outside of the business and things like that, what is something that you've been able to do that you're really proud of? And I thought about it for a second. And I said, you know, one of the things that I am most proud of is there's no woman out there hating me. And that sounds insignificant, I guess. But, and there were times I was a bad breaker-upper, to be honest with you, right? But when I wrote When the Bottom Falls, as I began to do my research, I began to think about that, kind of take a personal inventory, you know. And there were some exes out there. I reached out and said, hey, listen, I'm writing this book, and I'm going to write some things that are probably going to describe you, and I want to make sure you're okay with it. And if you want me to change some details or change names, and nobody said anything about that. Nobody's like, nope. You write what you got to write. And they were glad to hear from me. And I said, hey, I just want to tell you, man, you know, you were involved in my life when my life was extremely chaotic. And if I made your life more difficult, I want to apologize to you for it. And it was so interesting. Everybody said, you know, I never really carried that with me, but it's so good to hear you say that. And so I've made amends to all those people. And a lot of that's just, you know, from recovery. But I'm grateful to know there's not any acrimony between any of my exes. You know, the ones that matter. I'm not talking about somebody you go on one date with and it doesn't work out. You know, it's not really an ex. But I share that with you because that's what this thing kind of led me down the path today is like, you know, forgiveness. You know, what truly is forgiveness? And I'm a firm believer that if we offered forgiveness as often as we asked for it, the world would be a much, much better place. And so I leave you with that today. There's some people out there that maybe have harmed us, and maybe we're just holding a grudge because we want to hold a grudge. Or some people, that becomes their currency in life. Like, this justifies my negative behavior because somebody harmed me at some time. Well, I got a news flash for you. There's somebody that's harmed all of us, and some more significantly than others. And so you can let that break you, or you can find a way to move past it. So let me encourage you. And maybe there's somebody in your life that you owe forgiveness to. Maybe there's somebody you owe amends to. Let's make those. And let's be whole again as people and as families and as friend groups, maybe as work groups. Because there's going to come a time that we're going to be the one in that examination room and you find out, hey, you got a tumor. And you may not be as fortunate as our friend. And so rather than wait to that moment to think, oh my gosh, there's so many people I got to say I'm sorry to. There's so many people I got to forgive and let them know that it's okay. Why not do it now and let's just kind of live in agreement? Right? Why wait until then? Why live with that? There's no point. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.